Jun'yō was a Hiyō-class aircraft carrier of the Imperial Japanese Navy. She was laid down as the passenger liner Kashiwara Maru, but was purchased by the IJN in 1941 while under construction and converted into an aircraft carrier. Completed in May 1942, the ship participated in the Aleutian Islands Campaign the following month and in several battles during the Guadalcanal Campaign later in the year. Her aircraft were used from land bases during several battles in the New Guinea and Solomon Islands campaigns. Jun'yō was torpedoed in November 1943 and spent 3 months under repair. She was damaged by several bombs during the Battle of the Philippine Sea in mid-1944 but quickly returned to service. Lacking aircraft, she was used as a transport in late 1944 and was torpedoed in December. Jun'yō was under repair until March 1945 when the repairs were cancelled as uneconomical. She was then effectively hulked for the rest of the war. After the surrender of Japan in September, the Americans also deemed her not worth the cost to make her serviceable for use as a repatriation ship, and she was broken up in 1946-47. Design and description. The ship was ordered in late 1938 as the fast luxury passenger liner Kashiwara Maru by Nippon Yusen in late 1938. In exchange for a 60% subsidy of her building costs by the Navy Ministry, she was designed to be converted to an auxiliary aircraft carrier, one of 10 such ships subsidized by the IJN. Jun'yō had a length of 219.32 meters overall. She had a beam of 26.7 meters and a draft of 8.15 meters. She displaced 24,150 metric tons at standard load. Her crew ranged from 1,187 to 1,224 officers and men. The ship was fitted with 2 Mitsubishi Curtiss-geared steam turbine sets with a total of 56,250 shaft horsepower, each driving 1 propeller shaft, using steam provided by 6 Mitsubishi 3-drum water tube boilers. Jun'yō had a design speed of 25.5 knots, but reached 26 knots during her sea trials. The ship carried 4,100 metric tons of fuel oil, which gave her a range of 12,251 nautical miles at 18 knots. Flight deck arrangements. Jun'yō's flight deck was 210.3 meters long and had a maximum width of 27.3 meters. A large island was fitted on the starboard side that was integrated with, for the first time in a Japanese carrier, the ship's funnel. The ship was designed with 2 superimposed hangars, each approximately 153 meters long, 15 meters wide and 5 meters high. Each hangar could be subdivided by 4 fire curtains, and they were fitted with firefighting foam dispensers on each side. The hangars were served by 2 square aircraft elevators with rounded corners, 14.03 meters on each side. The ship's air group was originally intended to consist of 12 Mitsubishi A5M Claude fighters, plus 4 in storage 18 Aichi D-3A Val dive bombers, plus 2 in reserve, and 18 Nakajima B-5N Kate torpedo bombers. This was revised to substitute a dozen Mitsubishi A6M0 fighters, together with 3 more in storage, for the A5Ms by the time the ship commissioned in 1942. As a result of the lessons learned from the Battle of Midway in June The ship's fighter complement was strengthened to 21 Zeros, and the other aircraft reduced to 12 D3As and 9 B5Ns. By the end of the year, 6 more Zeros replaced an equal number of D3As. Although it was possible to fit all these aircraft into the hangars, 8 or 9 were usually stored on the flight deck to reduce cramping below decks. Armament and sensors. As a conversion from an ocean liner, it was not possible to add much armor, although the ship had a double bottom. 2 plates of decal steel, each 25 mm thick, protected the sides of the ship's machinery spaces. The ship's aviation gasoline tanks and magazines were protected by 1 layer of decal steel. In addition, her machinery spaces were further subdivided by transverse and longitudinal bulkheads to limit any flooding. The ship's primary armament consisted of a dozen 40 caliber 12.7 cm Type 89 anti-aircraft guns in 6 twin gun mounts on sponsons along the sides of the hull. Jun'yō was also initially equipped with 8 triple mounts for 25 mm Type 96 light AA guns, also in sponsons along the sides of the hull. In mid-1943, 4 more triple mounts were added and another 4 triple mounts in late 1943, early 1944. 2 of these last 4 mounts were mounted on the stern, and the others were placed in front of and behind the island. A dozen single mounts were also added, some of which were portable and could be mounted on the flight deck. After the Battle of the Philippine Sea in June 1944, the ship's anti-aircraft armament was reinforced with 3 more triple mounts, 2 twin mounts and 18 single mounts for the 25 mm Type 96 gun. These guns were supplemented by 6 28-round AA rocket launch. In October 1944, Jun'yō had a total of 91 Type 96 guns, 57 in 19 triple mounts, 4 in 2 twin mounts, and 30 single mounts. 2 Type 94 high-angle fire control directors, 1 on each side of the ship, were fitted to control the Type 89 guns. Each director mounted a 4.5-meter rangefinder. When Jun'yō was first commissioned, only the rangefinders were fitted and the directors were added later. 4 Type 95 directors controlled the 25 mm guns and another pair were added in early 1943. Early warning was provided by 2 Type 2 Mark Chapter 2 Model 1 early warning radars. The first of these was mounted on the top of the island in July 1942, shortly after she was completed, and the other was added later in the year on the port side of the hull, outboard of the rear elevator. A smaller Type 3 Mark Chapter 1 Model 3 air search radar was added in 1944. Career. Jun'yō's keel was laid down by Mitsubishi on Slipway No. 3 at their shipyard in Nagasaki on the 20th of March 1939. She was yard number 900 and had the name Kashiwara Maru at the time. The ship was purchased on the 10th of February 1941 by the Navy Ministry and she was temporarily referred to as No. 1001 ship to keep her conversion secret. She was launched on the 26th of June 1941 and commissioned on the 3rd of May 1942 as Jun'yō. Upon commissioning, the ship was assigned to the 4th Carrier Division of the 1st Air Fleet, together with Hiyō, under the command of Rear Admiral Kakushi Kakuta. She was tasked to support Operation Al, an attack plan to seize several Aleutian Islands to provide advance warning in case of an American attack from the Aleutians down the Kuril Islands while the main body of the American fleet was occupied defending Midway. Jun'yō carried 18 A6M20s and 18 D3s for this operation. At dawn on the 3rd of June, she launched 9 Zeros and a dozen D3s to attack Dutch Harbor on Unalaska Island. They had to turn back due to bad weather, although an American PBY Catalina reconnaissance aircraft was shot down by Zero. A second airstrike was launched later in the day to attack a group of destroyers discovered by aircraft from the first attack, but they failed to find the targets. Another airstrike was launched on the following day by the two carriers that consisted of 15 Zeros, 11 D3As, and 6 B5Ns and successfully bombed Dutch Harbor. As the aircraft from Jun'yō were regrouping after the attack, they were attacked by 8 Curtiss P-40 fighters that shot down 2 Zeros and a pair of D3As while losing 2 of their own. One more D3A got lost and failed to make it back to the carrier. Shortly after the aircraft were launched, the Americans attacked the carriers, but failed to inflict any damage. A Martin B-26 Marauder bomber and a PBY were shot down by Zeros, and a Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress bomber was shot down by Flak during the attack. Jun'yō had initially been designated as an auxiliary aircraft carrier, but following the loss of 4 Japanese fleet carriers in the Battle of Midway, she was redesignated as a regular carrier in July. Captain Okada Tamatsugu assumed command on the 20th of July 1942. Upon arrival at Truk on the 9th of October, together with her sister ship Hiyō, the ship was assigned to the 2nd Carrier Division to begin operations against American forces in the Guadalcanal area as part of the 3rd Fleet. On the 15th of October, the two carriers reached the vicinity of Malaita Island in the Solomon Islands, and their aircraft discovered a resupply convoy for Guadalcanal that was escorted by the destroyer Meredith. The A6M0s and D3s from the sisters attacked and sank the destroyer. The next day, they found a small seaplane tender, McFarland, in Lunga Roads offloading Avgas into barges. 9 D3s attacked, blowing the ship's stern off and destroying the barge. McFarland was not sunk, but required months of repairs. The two carriers were intended to play a prominent role in the Japanese effort to retake Guadalcanal Island and were assigned to the advance force. For this operation, their aircraft were supposed to provide air cover for a planned Japanese night attack to retake Henderson Field, and then be flown ashore. In late October 1942, during the Guadalcanal Campaign, Jun'yō took part in the Battle of the Santa Cruz Islands. At this time, her air group consisted of 18 Zeros, 18 D3s and 9 B5Ns. On 5 o'clock on the 26th of October 1942, she had launched 14 Zeros and a few D3s to land at Henderson Field on Guadalcanal, which had been falsely reported by the Imperial Japanese Army as in the hands. But they were greeted by Marine Grumman F-4F Wildcats and all were shot down. At 9:30, Jun'yō launched another airstrike that attacked the carrier Enterprise, the battleship South Dakota and the light cruiser San Juan, scoring hits on the latter two, but inflicting little substantial damage. 3 D3s and a B5N were shot down by returning Douglas SBD Dauntless dive bombers. Kakuta ordered another airstrike to be launched at 14:15, using 6 B5Ns from the damaged Shokaku and 9 D3s from both carriers. Shortly afterwards, more aircraft were launched to attack the American ships, including 6 B5Ns and 6 D3s, which were escorted by half a dozen Zeros. All of these aircraft attacked the carrier Hornet, which had been badly damaged by the attacks earlier in the day. American damage control measures had been partially successful. but one torpedo hit by a B-5N from Shokaku increased her list from 7.5 degrees to 14.5 degrees, and near misses by the dive bombers started enough seams in her plating that her list increased to 18 degrees. The Americans finally ordered the ship abandoned, and the last wave of dive bombers hit Hornet twice more, but inflicted little further damage. In mid-November 1942, Jun'yō was tasked to provide air cover for the convoy bringing reinforcements for the Japanese forces on Guadalcanal during the three-day-long naval battle of Guadalcanal. The ship had 27 A6 M30s, a dozen D3A2s and 9 B5N2s for this task. 6 of her Zeros were on combat air patrol when the convoy was discovered by 2 SBDs from Enterprise and shot down one dive bomber after it had made its spot report. They were unable to protect the convoy against further attacks by aircraft based at Henderson Field. 7 transports were sunk and the remaining 4 transports were damaged before the end of the day. That afternoon, Enterprise had been discovered by a searching B-5N, and Jun'yō launched an airstrike with her remaining aircraft, but they failed to locate the American carrier. In December 1942–January 1943, the carrier covered several convoys that brought reinforcements to Wewak, New Guinea, and her air group was based there for several days to protect the forces there before returning to Truk on the 20th of January. The ship then covered the evacuation of forces from Guadalcanal through early February. Jun'yō briefly returned to Japan in February before she sailed for Truk on the 22nd of March together with Hiyō. Her air group was detached to Rabaul on the 2nd of April to participate in Operation Hiyō, a land-based aerial offensive against Allied bases in the Solomon Islands and New Guinea. Before returning to Truk in the middle of the month, Jun'yō's aircraft claimed to have shot down 16 American aircraft for the loss of 7 A6 Ms and 2 D3As, and they sank the destroyer Usaran. Ward. The ship's air group was deployed to Buin, Papua New Guinea on the 2nd of July in response to the American attack on Rendezvous Island on the 30th of June. Her fighters claimed 37 victories for the loss of 9 aircraft before disbanding on the 1st of September, leaving her aircraft behind. The carrier returned to Japan in late July. Jun'yō ferried aircraft to Sumatra in mid-August and troops and equipment to the Caroline Islands in September and October. En route from Truk to Kure on the 5th of November 1943, Jun'yō was hit off Bungo Swedo by a torpedo from the submarine Halibut. 4 men were killed, but the damage was light, other than the disabled rudder. The ship was under repair and refit until the 29th of February 1944 at Kure. Meanwhile, her air group had been reconstituted at Singapore on the 1st of November with 24 Zeros, 18 D3As and 9 B5Ns. The aircraft transferred to Truk on the 1st of December and then to Cavien at the end of December before reaching Rabaul on the 25th of January 1944. Her fighters claimed 40 Allied aircraft shot down and an additional 30 probably destroyed, but the air group was virtually annihilated. The survivors were back at Truk on the 20th of February and the air group was disbanded. In the meantime, the Japanese Navy had restructured its carrier air groups so that one air group was assigned to one carrier division and Air Group 652 was assigned to the 2nd Carrier Division with Hiyō, Jun'yō and Yuho on the 1st of March. The air group was last in priority to be rebuilt and only had 30 Model 21 Zeros, 13 Model 52 Zeros and 4 D3As on hand on the 1st of April of its authorized 81 fighters, 36 dive bombers and 27 torpedo bombers. The ship conducted training for her aircraft in the inland sea until the 11th of May when she sailed for Tawi-Tawi in the Philippines. The new base was closer to the oil wells in Borneo on which the Navy relied, and also to the Palau and Western Caroline Islands where the Japanese expected the next American attack. However, the location lacked an airfield on which to train the green pilots, and American submarines were very active in the vicinity, which restricted the ships to the anchorage. Battle of the Philippine Sea. The Japanese fleet was en route to Guimaras Island in the central Philippines on the 13th of June, where they intended to practice carrier operations in an area better protected from submarines. When Vice Admiral Gisaburo Ozawa learned of the American attack on the Mariana Islands the previous day, upon reaching Guimaras, the fleet refueled and sortied into the Philippine Sea, where they spotted Task Force 58 on the 18th of June. The Americans failed to locate Ozawa's ships that day, and the Japanese turned south to maintain a constant distance between them and the American carriers, as Ozawa had decided on launching his air strikes early the following morning. At this time, Air Group 652 consisted of 81 Zeros, 27 D3 as 9 Yokosuka D4Y Judy dive bombers and 18 Nakajima B6N Jill torpedo bombers, roughly evenly divided among the three ships. The three carriers began launching the first airstrike of 26 bomb-carrying A6M20s, 16 A6M50s to escort the other aircraft, and 7 B6Ns at about 9:30. Most of these aircraft were misdirected and failed to find any American ships, although a dozen persisted in the search and found one of the American task groups. A B6N, 5 bomb-carrying Zeros, and an escorting Zero were shot down by the defending fighters, and no damage was inflicted on any American ships. A second airstrike of 27 D3 as 9 D4Ys, 2 B6Ns and 26 escorting Zeros was launched around 11 o'clock, accompanied by at least 18 A6Ms and B6Ns from Shokaku and Zuikaku. They had also been given an erroneous spot report and could not find any American ships. The 652nd Aircraft headed for airfield at Rota and Guam to refuel, while those from the other two carriers headed back to them. A pair of Zeros and 64Ys bound for Rota spotted the carriers Wasp and Bunker Hill en route and failed to inflict any damage on the American ships, while losing 5 D4Ys to anti-aircraft fire. Radar had spotted those aircraft headed for Guam, and they were intercepted by 41 Grumman F-6F Hellcats. Only a single A-6M5, 1 D4Y and 7 D3 as of the 49 Japanese aircraft survived the encounter and landed. At dusk, the Japanese turned away to the northwest to regroup and to refuel, and the Americans turned west to close the distance. They discovered the retiring Japanese fleet during the afternoon of the following day, and Vice Admiral Mark Misha ordered an airstrike launched. They discovered the ships of the 2nd Carrier Division and hit Jun'yō with 2 bombs near her island. The ship was not badly damaged, but the damage did stop flight operations. Air Group 652 claimed 7 American aircraft shot down and 4 more probably shot down, but lost 11 Zeros, plus another 3 that had to ditch. The air group was disbanded on the 10th of July, with many of its remaining personnel being assigned to Air Group 653. After repairs at Kure, Jun'yō remained in the inland sea without aircraft until the 27th of October, when she was tasked to transport material to Borneo. On the 3rd of November, she was attacked by the submarine Pintado near Makung, but her escorting destroyer Akakazi deliberately intercepted the torpedoes and sank with no survivors. On her return voyage, the ship was unsuccessfully attacked by the submarines Barb and Jalao. On the 25th of November, she sailed for Manila via Makung to rendezvous with the battleship Haruna and the destroyers Suzutsuki, Fuyutsuki, and Maki. Having loaded 200 survivors of the battleship Musashi, Jun'yō was attacked by the submarines Sea Devil, Plaice and Redfish early in the morning of the 9th of December 1944. She was hit by 3 torpedoes that flooded several compartments and killed 19 men. These gave her 10 degrees to 12 degrees list to starboard, but she was able to proceed on one engine. She reached Sasebo the following day and began repairs on the 18th of December. The repairs were abandoned in March 1945 for lack of materials, and the ship was moved from the dock to Ebisu Bay at Sasebo on the 1st of April. Efforts to camouflage the ship began on the 23rd of April, and she was reclassified as a guard ship on the 20th of June. Jun'yō's armament was ordered removed on the 5th of August, and the ship was surrendered to the Allies on the 2nd of September. An American technical team evaluated the ship's condition on the 8th of October and deemed her a constructive total loss. Jun'yō was stricken from the Navy list on the 30th of November and scrapped between the 1st of June 1946 and the 1st of August 1947 by the Sasebo Ship Company.